guys and welcome back to my channel. So on today's episode we are doing what's probably my most highly requested video ever. We are doing my favourite books. This will be my favourite books at the moment. This is very liable to change. Also, I have got only 10 things that I will share with you. Only 10. I actually brought about 20 out here to put down and now I had to like force myself to choose, which was hard. I definitely think this collection speaks to like, this collection very much speaks to, if you are new, hello, welcome, my name is Emma. I'm a comparative literature student and I think that's very much reflected in this little pile in front of me. I will share that with you today. I'm very excited about it. Listen, I got this top, it's new, I really like it, it's really cute. Also, because I know I'm gonna get questions on it, my lipstick is this YSL one. Oh, look at the packaging. That's lipstick packaging porn. That's what that is. And now I'm gonna be demonetized because I said porn on the internet. A Rouge Pure Couture and it's a number 13. I'll link it down below. We will go back and work our way forward, but we will start with a book that I don't actually have in front of me at all. Okay, this is my favourite book of all time, will always be my favourite book and holds such a special place in my heart that I can't even like tell you how much this book means to me. I don't have it with me, but it's Matilda by Roald Dahl. As a child, I'm dyslexic, so reading was always so much more difficult for me. Trying to motivate me to read, you had to give me something good. I read so many of Roald Dahl's books as a child, but Matilda spoke to me on such a level, and also I feel like I just saw her as me, and as a child, you know, at that age I think that was so important for me. I really think it's funny because I think about it and I really think that as a book defined me as a person in a really weird way. It gave me this love of reading that I think is actually very difficult to maybe foster in a dyslexic child. I am forever grateful for Roald Dahl for that. Also, I read a lot of Michael Pompadour, but I couldn't pick out one, so I feel like to represent all of that, I had to choose Matilda. I love that book to absolute pieces. I think it's one of the only things as a child as well that I read more than once. Have I actually even finished? So that is definitely, will always be one of my favourite books. And it just makes me incredibly happy. My mum even once read it, I think, on holiday when she ran out of things to read. So even she's read it, so. But emotional kind of stuff aside, we were gonna now move 3,000 years back. Again, it's actually a copy I don't have with me. I've said this so many times, every book video this pops up. This is the Odyssey, but I mean the Iliad, okay? My friend Lottie has my bloody copy of the Iliad. She's had it for a year. This isn't what I read, but this is what I'm gonna wave at you. I always kind of was like, oh, I'll read the Odyssey. I mean, everyone should read the Odyssey. I know what happens in the Odyssey, but I've never I read like a kid's version of it, but I've never actually properly read it. But I was like, I'll start with the Iliad because the Iliad precedes the Odyssey. So I read that, and oh my god. I loved it. If you're the kind of person who maybe is a bit like, oh, I don't want to read classic, that's so snobby and pretentious, read classics, it's amazing. Like, they're classics for a reason. I really highly recommend that, especially because this is something my friend Emily said to me and it like made me so happy for her to say it, is that if you read, you know, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid and the Bible, you've basically got all of your references for like 90% of literature covered. We went to the Wallace collection recently and just walking around, like a lot of the paintings were like different gods and goddesses, especially like trying to learn see if they're Roman or Greek, and just it was a lot of fun trying to like spot especially myths from all of that. I've actually got a copy of, that's another pile of books that I'm actually reading. It's like 5 books. Why don't I do this to myself? But I bought Ovid's Metamorphoses. I bought it and I started reading it last night and I'm already like so excited. I'm like, oh my god, I just want to finish it. Especially because like it's poetry. Like it says it's like 700 pages, but it's not actually 700 pages. So that makes my dyslexic brain happy too, being like, I can say I read 700 pages when I didn't really. I love myths and gods and I find that so satisfying. Love it to pieces. And I don't know, I found there's something very weirdly human about it in terms of, I know they're humans, but in terms of like, there are some bits of it that I feel transcend time so well. I actually think the gods are hilarious. It's amazing how much sense other things you then read start to make. That might be really subtle references that you just read over and you don't understand the depth of the meaning because you don't have this prior reading. So I really recommend sort of go back, read classics and then read forwards. That's why we're organising my pile this way. Also, this is just gonna reek of complex student, I'm sorry. I like my degree! I will read the Odyssey soon, maybe. I need to read the Aeneid, I still haven't read the Aeneid. Next, this is Seneca on the shortness of life. These are the Penguin Great Ideas. I've spoken about these so many times, probably sick of it by now. So it's Stoicism. I'm also reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. That's Stoic too. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't actually include it in this video. Can't. I should put highlight on. Should I? Oh. Wait for it, wait for it. So it's Stoic. It's a kind of philosophy I'm really being drawn to again and again. The more I read, the more I want to read. The more I'm like, I need to read this more and more. This philosophy then does appear in other things. It appears in Ovid on like one of the first few lines. So I was like, ooh, extra reading, it all makes sense now. Because so many things are reaction to reactions. People who wrote read, so you need to like kind of be able to map it all together, and it has to all work together. You know what I mean. He was one of Nero's advisors, and he ended up being exiled. But I really, really liked this. On the shortness of life, it's really the idea of like, yeah, you do live very shortly. Like, don't postpone your life and don't wait for the next good thing to happen to you. Like, make your life happen now. But the whole like life is short thing, he kind of says that it's not, but it's really more about how much you make of your life rather than how long you live. Which is the kind of these principles we do even today still really think about, but we don't, it's nice having them set out this kind of way in like rational, thought out, balanced. Oh, very, very highly recommend. I really recommend that entire series, which is actually where I got my next thing from. This is the longest thing I now own. My mum bought me this for Christmas. This is the complete essays of Michel de Montaigne. See, I bought some of his essays as the Penguin Great Ideas. I love them so much. I begged my mother for this. Well, I think I told her it and then forgot about it, and then kept hinting that I really wanted it, and then she got it for me for Christmas. So it's 1,200 pages. I actually haven't technically read anything in here yet, because some of the essays of his that I've read are in here, you know, so I haven't like kind of had the time to delve in. He takes very specific topics, actually quite similar to what Voltaire does. I haven't actually put Voltaire on this list. Oh, can I do 11? Is that cheating if I do 11? I'm cheating and I'm doing 11. Nobody saw that. I like this because he sort of chooses different topics, and he does like one topic and then does an essay on that, and then chooses a different topic, but very, very, very specific topics. So just flicking through, I'm like, this says on books. This one is on the affection of fathers for their children. I actually did read that one. On prayer, on the Battle of Treux, on sleep. What does it say about sleep? Some of them are a page long, some of them are 2-3 pages long, some of them are like 20 pages long. You know how good that smells, right? So this is just something that I feel like if you want to read philosophy and you just like thinking about stuff and you want to just, I don't know, meditate on things a bit more, and you just, I don't know, if you want to challenge your way of thinking, if you want to see how other people think about things, I think this is a valuable thing to just have as part of a library, just because I think it's really useful for reference if you're writing things, and just to kind of go back to, and he references a lot of other writers, but obviously a lot of what it is classics, because they're all classically trained. This is 16th century. I like philosophy a lot. I know I said this is my favourite books, but I said books, not novels. There's also a play in here, so I hope you enjoy this. They're calm. I think both of what it is it's calm and it's collected, and it's not, I don't want to say it's not passionate, but it's not sort of heat of the argument kind of sort of passion. It's very like, I've thought about this. This is what my educated self thinks about these kind of things. And I think it's a very good way of reasoning and debating. And also reading essays helps you write essays. So if you're a student and you're just sort of curious about life, I think this is a really good one. Someone who's a bit less rational, calm and collected is Voltaire, who I just chucked in. I have so many of his things, so this is just the one I'm going to wave at you. If you want to read a novel, it's not really a novel, that he's written, read Candide or Optimism. I read that in a day, so proud of myself. But this is another one of the great ideas. This is Miracles and is it Idolatry? Idolatry, not adultery, but like worshipping of idols. I think these are just excerpts from his Dictionnaire philosophique, where he kind of like Montaigne goes through different topics and writes an essay on them. But obviously he's 16th century, he's 18th century, so you get a lot more enlightenment in here, which I love. And he's just a lot cheekier and a lot more outspoken, and I think he's more happy to challenge things and challenge the status quo, and I don't think he's afraid of upsetting people. I mean, the Catholic Church banned like 40 of his works, so clearly he's doing something right, especially in terms of the Enlightenment principle of sophroaude, which is dare to think, or is it dare to be wise? I think you translate it as both. So if you just want to like challenge the way you can think about things, He's good. Also, because my special interest, my interest is the 18th century, especially France and England. It just helps me make more sense of what people are thinking about things, how they are feeling at the time, and how that filters then through into culture, literature, history. I just really like him. And I don't like Rousseau. That's all you need to know there. Okay, this is probably... I said Matilda was my favourite book. That's probably the most important book to me ever. My favourite book I think I've ever read is Roxana. The Fortunate Mistress. I know everyone bloody reads Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Don't bother with it. It's really boring. Read Roxanne instead. Roxana. I absolutely love this book. It's everything that I want in an 18th century novel. It's, you know, sex, scandal, money, titles. It's like, oh, it's so juicy and gossipy. You understand why Defoe published anonymously. It's funny because at this point as well, the novel isn't really fully defined as a genre. So then it's like, he forgets to then moralise any of it. It's like kind of like an afterthought that he does in the last like paragraph or so, when it's like, oh, and then her life went downhill from there, and you know, because of all the bad things she did in like the last paragraph of the novel, being like, oh, I should probably say not to do this. And she speaks a lot about marriage as well, and that marriage in the 18th century I think is so fascinating. That's why this almost made the list. This is Marriage, a History by Stephanie Coontz. Coontz? If you're interested in marriage as an institution and its history, so worth reading this. Honestly, it's really like interesting in terms of like studying it rather than just like, I want to get married. I'm like, think about what you mean when you say you want to get married. Like, you know, the church never really had anything to do with marriage. Do you know that? The church's only like involvement with marriage used to be that like you'd pin marriage announcements to the door of a church. Like, that's what you do. It changes the way you think about marriage. Like, I think we take it for granted that it is the way it is now to us. That seems so normal. There's so many different kinds of marriages that you have it over history and like the continents, and it's so interesting. You know, for somewhere in South America where lineage and stuff goes through the maternal line rather than the paternal line, like that's really cool. And there's this other culture where like if this woman was pregnant, that she'd have sex with as many guys as she could, and then if you have sex with a woman while she's pregnant, then you like, it's like you're the father's child, and it's like you all have to have an input in raising this baby. So it's like, that's so cool. Like, I think we take modern marriage for granted, and like, I think we need to understand its history to understand its present, and also modern marriages are really fragile. Really fragile. Like, think about how many divorced people you know. Exactly. So I think it's really interesting if you like know the history. But the one thing you'll learn is like, don't marry for love. That's very volatile. I mean, don't marry someone you don't love, but don't only marry them because you love them. Anyway, so this is why I can't limit myself to 10. This is just not the kind of person I am. You have to, oh, did I forget Machiavelli? Damn it. Did I? Right, we're just not gonna count anymore. 10, fuck that. This is fantastic. See, the one thing that annoys me is I didn't make notes in this. Oh, terrible, Emma, terrible. Always read with a pen in your hand. It's probably the most useful thing I learned at A-level. I love this. It's just it's scandalously fabulous and just, oh, love it. This, Charlotte Lennox, the female Quixote, not Quixote, Quixote, don't ask. This is just taking the piss, and I love it. As you can imagine, it draws from Cervantes' Don Quixote. This girl is like reading all of her mother's 17th century French romances, and it goes to her head, and then she imagined all of these things are happening to her when they're not. It's a lot about like the dangers of women reading and how it influences them, and which is kind of what my dissertation is about, but like, oh, it's just so good for it. And like, I actually like, look at that, I actually read the entire, yeah, Emma read the entire thing for a module. That never happens when I actually read the entire book for a module. Never. It was, you know, for just like 1 week. This is Wollstonecraft, a vindication of the rights of women. Also, it has the vindication of the rights of men, but like, we don't talk about that. So this is like the proto-feminist work. If you're interested in feminism, like, you have to read this. The amount of time she says tyrant is hilarious. It's like the 18th century version of like men are trash. Like, that's what it is. And she encourages women reading and women learning, and I think she makes so much sense for her time, and I think she's really like the first kind of striving towards, I think, does she live in, no, Wollstonecraft. Who did she, their family, if you look into their family as well, they're quite ridiculous. If you want to read more about feminism, I think we know a lot about it, but not the history of it, so I think really recommend this. Next we have something, again, read for a module, but really enjoyed, Corinne or Italy. I don't like romanticism, but I shocked myself with this. I got so attached to Corinne as a character, I don't know what was wrong with me. I don't like the other guy in it, Oswald. I think he's a bit He's a bit of a wet wipe, really. It reads a bit like a travel guide some bits. It's a lot about arts and culture. She does different chapters on that. And it was a very influential text at the time. It was translated into a lot of different languages very, very quickly on. A lot of different editions happened really quickly. That's how you know how popular something is, because we keep reprinting it. I just really enjoyed it, and the essay I wrote in it, I did really well on it. I amused myself with was that because of the descriptions she gives are so incredibly vivid and you feel like you're stood there. I took a bit of description and I Google mapped it, and I essentially found the exact coordinates for where she was describing, and I think it's something my lecturer really appreciated, but that's how it feels like. You feel like you know exactly where you are, and as someone who has been to Italy quite a few times, especially Rome, I think it's a good read. The ending is sad though, so it's kind of like, okay, next. Nancy Mitford's Madame de Pompadour is amazing. It's not fiction, but she makes it feel like fiction. She makes it feel like a fairy tale, but obviously you're getting all the information. Oh my god, it's so good. It's very warm. It's not very like, a lot of history just reads as history. It just doesn't read as like, it almost feels like there's no people in it, you know? Like people like, oh, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. But this is a bit more, I don't want to say emotional, but human, and it's warm. You can feel Mitford's empathy and sympathy for Madame de Pompadour. It's just when she talks about the bit where Madame de Pompadour is now died and how Louis XV has dealt with that, it's just very because she uses like a lot of correspondence at Versailles. I had no idea that even existed, and it's just so interesting to read. And I'm really interested in Marie Antoinette, as you'll find out in next week's video. It's lovely. And I've now got her Voltaire in Love, which is sat on the pile over there. So because I love Voltaire, so I want to know more about him. She's done 4. She did Voltaire, Madame de Pompadour, The Sun King, someone else. I think Frederick the Great. So if you want to read about those people, but you don't really want to read a history book because that's boring, I recommend her. Also, the Mitford sisters in themselves are a ridiculous bunch, so I really highly recommend like looking into them. They're fascinating. And lastly, it's a play. This is my favourite play. This is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. You will see this in next week's video. Next week's video is my favourite film, so stay tuned for that. If that's something that interests you, you can always, click the notification bell. Yes, it's down there if you want to not let me get lost in your subscription box, because they're not organising them chronologically anymore. So really, I'd recommend clicking the bell. Anyway, this is fantastic. I've never seen it on stage. It kills me. I've seen the film of it, which is fantastic, with Richard Burton and Liz Taylor. Oh my god, it can do no wrongs to me. I think it's fantastically written. As a filmmaker and a screenwriter, I just think this is fantastic in terms of dialogue. Feisty, fast, sort of passionate, angry, kind of passive-aggressive is probably better. Dialogue between 2 married couples, one that's been married a lot longer than the other, and I just think it's just, I don't know, it's just a fascinating look into what people are like. And it's very claustrophobic, and I adore this. And that's funny because I've never been the biggest fan of plays. The longer that I've been studying for, the more and more and more that I appreciate this. It's fantastic. Ooh, that's all of them. Trust me, that is not all of the things that I've enjoyed reading, but that is a very curated selection for you. Believe me, as I read more, especially I'm assuming that this pile will suddenly like shoot up there. I certainly have a lot more things that in time I'll recommend you. So this is just my favourites for 2018. Not that I read all of these in 2018, but this is, at the moment, this is how it stands. As I read more, I will of course update you. Over the summer what I read, you'll probably find that in my weekly vlog. Up there for you. So yeah guys, let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what your favourite books are, and I will also list them all down for you below. So yeah guys, I make videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday at 8 GMT time. Internet speed promoting. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you guys very, very soon.